Veterans in Politics endorsement interviews for Congressional District 3. Looks like we have 4 candidates here. They've all been invited, and thank you for attending. You'll each have 1 minute to introduce yourselves, and then we'll move on with panel questions. Why don't we begin with Jay Calder?
I'd rather not use the microphone. I think that you all be able to hear me clearly.
We need you.
We're recording.
For that.
Okay.
Sorry. It sounded kind of fuzzy when I was back there. All right.
Maybe it's you.
All right. My name's Jay Calder. I'm running for Congress in District 3. I'm a Democrat, moderate Democrat. I have a college degree in business. I was a lieutenant commander in the Navy. I did 3 deployments. My last deployment was on board an aircraft carrier off the coast of Afghanistan in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. I stood watch as junior officer of the deck on the aircraft carrier. I was a insurance claims adjuster, and the last 8 years I worked in the mortgage and insurance industry. Mortgage and real estate industry. Kind of phased out of that. And for the last year, I've been finishing my second bachelor's degree in political science at UNLV.
Hello, my name is Tom Jones. I'm not a singer. I'm a retired successful businessman. I retired when I was 55. I've been married for 39 years, lived in Vegas for 15 years. I have 5 children, 8 grandchildren, and basically the reason I'm running for office is because of my grandchildren. I believe it's terrible what our generation has done to the youth of our country, that we're leaving them with such a large debt because we didn't do our job and we put the burden on them. I worked for 18 years in the corporate field, and then I started my own business, had it for 3 years, sold it, made a nice profit, started another one, sold that, made a nice profit, started another one, sold that. And so I retired when I was 55. I'm 72 years old, and I'm starting up this campaign because, as I said before, I want to do something.
Gerald, Sakura. I've had an unusual life. I've served our country twice, once voluntarily and once involuntarily. Voluntarily, I was at graduate school at Columbia. I gave up my college deferment. I'm an officer from 90-Day Wonder. I've been on destroyers, and I was in Vietnam as an advisor of a Vietnamese patrol boat. Involuntarily, after the Second World War, myself and entire family were interned at Pearl Harbor and Cap Minidoka. My father's 3 brothers all volunteered to fight against Hitler, actually Mussolini and Italy. And after the war, it was difficult for Asians to get a job. We lived in government housing till 1951. My 3 brothers are doctors, PhD from Harvard, a medical missionary, plastic surgeon, captain in the Air Force, and a retired OBGYN. Wall Street and the lobbyists in Wall Street are taking us all for a cleaner. They feed both sides of the fence and they make out enormously. We'll talk about it more later.
My name is Jim Murphy, and I'm also a retired lieutenant commander from the Navy. I was a naval aviator, basically hauling trash. I never got to fly fighters, but I managed to get to the Middle East, and like the rest of us, and I initially enlisted in the Air Force, and I was enlisted for a few years, if you know what that's like, and it was much better being an officer, I can tell you that. But in any case, I'm here for a very particular purpose. I had, about over a year ago, my son needed some help from Joe Heck on a federal case, and we applied a little over a year ago, and we put all the paperwork into a guy by the name of Hughes was his last name, and after a few weeks or a month, we ended up getting no answer, telephone calls, second interview, and bingo, 1 year, no answer still from Joe Heck.
All right, we're going to begin with panel questions with Mr. Jonas.
First off, thank you guys for coming in this afternoon. My question specifically is, last time I remembered right, it was the Congress was the only ones that could declare war. So when you guys begin, if you're fortunate enough to be elected to Congress, how are you going to hold the president accountable to where we don't have troops going all over the world, engaging in all these different conflicts without the express consent of the Congress? What specifically are you going to do to hold the president to his constitutional duty for there to be a declaration of war if war goes longer than 30 days? Yeah, we'll start down with Jim Murphy. Mr. Murphy, if you want to start.
Okay, we'll start here.
Yes.
One of the big things, of course, is the House of Representatives and the Senate. In our last shot that we went through, we got the House. I'm a conservative.
Could you hold the mic closer to you?
independent. I'm a conservative.
Hold the mic,
independent.
there you go. Thank
Closer,
you.
they're okay. So what you need to do, you have to get Congress in line with the president. And if he's not in line with the president, nothing really can be done. So you can overcome an enormous amount of power by the president. That's why we have the three branches. But 4 years ago, we had all the branches were one party, and when that happens, you're in trouble. And the only thing we're waiting for now, I guess, all of us, is to see how this Obamacare comes out with the Supreme Court. That's what I'm looking at real close right now. And is that, I don't know if that's the...
You got 10 seconds.
Okay, I got 5, okay. In any case, I sure would like to see the House and Senate go in a different direction. That's what we have to do.
Congress is being controlled by lobbyists. Halliburton wanted this war. They delivered gasoline, pick it up in Kuwait at 4 cents a gallon, drive it 46 miles up to Baghdad, and charge us, taxpayers, $4 a gallon. We have men going back 2, 3, 4, 5 tours of duty, including National Guards. This is outrageous. We need to have a national service. We can treat two huge problems at the same time: education and our military. Every kid in his junior year will serve 1 year in either the Peace Corps or the military. It'll make men and women of them. We'll only have a 3-year high school, and it'll solve all of these cases of suicides and incredible post-Vietnam syndromes, if you will, Afghanistanian syndromes. How many of us know of somebody that's come back and had a difficult time with their wives, suicides and so forth? We have to stop this privatization of the Army, of the military, excuse me.
Well, I agree with you that only Congress can declare war, yet the last declared war we had was World War II. We've had 5 wars since then, and I think that our Congress has not performed their oath of office. They take an oath to uphold the Constitution, they should do it. And I think that if I was elected, if we went to war, a conflict or whatever they call it, and Congress didn't vote for a war, then I would impeach the president, I would try to impeach the Congress, I would do everything I could to stop the war from happening. And the big thing to me about the Congress and these wars that are going on is that how can somebody go back on their oath and let what's happening to our country continue?
Okay, over the past maybe 10, 20 years, the stalemate in Congress with the Republicans and Democrats and the polarization, not being able to get along in Congress and not being able to be effective, has shifted more power to the presidency. I'm studying it right now. It's very clear. The president is taking more power. You heard in the State of the Union. He's going to Congress. Bring me a bill. Do this, do that. He's putting it back in the hands of Congress, saying, if you guys do your job properly, then I won't have to. I kind of believe in that. When I get to Congress, I want to work carefully to get reasonable bipartisan support and an effective Congress so that Congress does take back its power. The Constitution was designed, our founding fathers designed it very carefully. The president does need to be able, as commander-in-chief, to take swift action. He has to be able to do that. But that power has been slightly abused over the years as Congress has diluted their power. I will work carefully for bipartisan cooperation to prevent that.
Thank you, gentlemen, for attending today. My question is concerning the NDAA. Do you support the bill as it has been passed, and if not, why?
Shift, go back this way.
Sure.
Go ahead.
What was the bill?
Hold on.
I didn't.
Why don't we're gonna start with Mr. Holder and then work
It's
back
the
up.
So I don't have to go
NDAA.
last all the time.
Yeah.
The NDAA.
No, you go first.
Okay. The NDA, it seems there was one provision of the NDA that was attached to the larger bill that severely restricts the civil liberties of American citizens. It was not necessary, and it should have never been passed. It was allowed to slip in there at the end, and then I believe that Democrat candidate Feinstein proposed legislation that would supersede the provision of the NDA that would not give law enforcement officials broad authority over American citizens. From what I understand, it makes the United States considered a combat zone. I am not in favor of that. I believe that over the past 10 years, our government's done a fantastic job of providing security for our nation without us giving up too many civil liberties. And I believe we don't need the NDA. We're doing an effective job as it is, and we don't need to go that far.
I also agree that we don't need the NDA, but what I don't agree with Jay about is that we have protected our country without giving up too much of our civil liberties. I think we have given up too much. I think we've done a good job of protecting the country, but I also think we gave up a lot of our freedoms, our individual liberty, and our independence. I mean, the government is, the Supreme Court just ruled that we can be strip searched just for being arrested. We don't even have to be convicted. I think that's terrible. We're practically strip searched to get on an airplane. And I don't think that, I mean, young women go to get on an airplane and they're groped, basically. And I think that should not happen in America. And I think we've given up too much of our liberties.
The NDA is an extremely ethical and moral issue that, depending on what side you want to debate, you can find an argument either way. Do we want to keep ourselves super safe and have nothing ever happen to us like we are babying our children these days? All the video games and so forth? Or are we willing to take a reasonable risk? When I ran in New Jersey, I was going to challenge my opponent to be waterboarded and see how long. He's claiming
I'd like to
this.
see that. You get mine.
We are raising an entire generation that's not going to be able to compete with anybody. If you read this latest book about the correlation between countries that have huge amounts of natural resources and ones that don't, how much education their kids get, think about it. Japan imports every ounce of oil. Look at their educational system. Got a lot more to say about that.
Thank you.
I'm agreeing with almost everyone here, so it's very difficult. I spent 25 years as a pilot for TWA, so I've seen the liberties of not only the people, but the pilots, the flight attendants, everyone else you know, bowing down to the federal government. That's the particular thing that I'm involved with right now with Joe Heck. I'm trying to explain to him, and I can't get to him, but someday I'll get to talk to him, maybe. But that might be an impossible situation. Now, the deal is, the FAA is actually in bed with the corporations, the airlines. If you had any idea, because I was an inspector for 5 years with the FAA, so I know the inside story, and I could have been a whistleblower years ago. And if you knew the corruption that takes place between the airlines and the FAA, you would be surprised. And I found something else out. I went to an NTSB hearing and found out that they can accept hearsay evidence. Just think about that. And they did.
Thank you all for being here. I like what Mr. Holder said about, you know, the partisan bickering, you know, and the gridlock. I mean, there's nothing more frustrating probably for us citizens to be dealing with life on an everyday basis, and a bunch of immature Congress people are bickering among each other while the country stagnates around them. I mean, it's appalling, really. So in that vein, I'd like each of you to explain one thing you like about the opposing party.
That's beautiful. That's a great question. And I am ideally suited for District 3, where there's 40% Republicans, 40% Democrat, and 20% other. I have close friends. I have a friend who's a multimillionaire who was explaining to me how he had to pay $2 million in taxes, and he has a $70,000. He pays $70,000 a month. I have many close friends that are Republicans. There's a significant problem in Washington, D.C. that congressmen do not work as much as they should. The people keep sending the traditional, you know, the all-American type guy there who has a wife, 2 kids, like Joe Heck and my main opponent in the primary, and God bless them, that's fine. However, it's a tough job. And I want to go to Washington and I want to work 2 weeks on, 1 week off. On those weekends, I want to insist on bipartisan events. I want to make friends with my fellow Republicans, go golfing or have a brunch or something so I can talk to them. Talk to a Republican who might be in Congress so we can become friends a little bit. So that
Taxpayers
when
paying for that?
when it's time for us to make decisions, this guy's just not, oh, that's just some, you know, jerk Republican and his ideology is not in line with mine.
So
make
what's one
friends
thing? What's one thing you like about the Republican Party? That's the question.
I'm saying that I'm okay with Republicans. I don't necessarily think they're all bad.
Fair enough. I guess that's something.
I could get along with them. I'm okay on some of their
don't wanna be
conservative
one.
issues. I'm a moderate Democrat, and I'm okay with some of their stance on conservative issues. I have right to bear arms, for one.
Okay, there you go.
Perfect.
Mr. Gerald?
Okay, first of all, I'm an independent American party, and I think the two-party system has failed because of the bipartisan, because they each stay with their own party. I feel that we need 3 or 4 parties in order to stop this. One time we have the Democrats in power, one time we have the Republicans in power, and they both pretty much spend our money. They just spend it on different things. As far as your question is concerned, I think the Republicans are good with their fiscal policies. I think the Democrats are good because they try and help the less fortunate. I'm not saying that the Republicans don't want to do that. I'm not saying that the Democrats spend all the money. But one thing I did want to say regarding health care and our Congress, why is it they can pass bills that they don't have to follow? And why is it that they pass a health care program that they don't have to follow? And I think our veterans should have their health care program.
The Republicans are absolutely focused. If they need 1,000 votes in a small district in Ohio, they appeal to the Catholic mother of 9 children making $40,000 a year, working 3 jobs, and said their trickle-down economics is going to help them. That's how focused they are. Dr. Joe Heck is a very admirable man. The only problem is once you raise $1.5 million, who do you think you're gonna get the first phone call from? This is the Sloan Canyon mining operation. Here's a letter we want you to submit that, in which you will prevaricate and won't come out absolutely against Stone Canyon. We're now calling it Hecka Mountain, because now we're gonna have a research facility there rather than closing it down permanently. When he was a doctor and a citizen, he believed this. Now that the first two phone calls are from the nuclear power industry and from the mining industry, what happens? I'm gonna run on $25,000 a year to run for office. And if it takes me 2.5 years, if I don't win this primary, on June 13th, I'm going to announce my campaign for 2012 with an idea and volunteers and Facebook and YouTube. I believe I can offset $1.5 million, and then the first call I get when I get to Congress is going to be from you, saying, okay, I'll lower your taxes, or look at the departments and make it an informed decision based upon my life experiences.
I'd like to say one thing. Since the campaign manager for Heck is here, Joe Heck, and he's not here,
Is that
I
mic on?
always call him.
Is the mic on?
You turned it off. Oh. I'd like to say that with Joe Heck, I call him Lamont. The older people would probably know who this is. If you've ever heard of Lamont Cranston, that's what I call him. And for the younger guys, he used to be the shadow. Can't find him. And I'm very upset with this guy because I went there so many times, and people here, they understand it. Everyone understands it. But you can't disregard, and I voted for Joe. I voted for him, and I campaigned for him in Boulder City. And what did I get? Not even a postcard from him. So I think it's important that everyone understand, if you're not in the higher echelon somehow, you are not even going to be listened to. Or if it's a real simple project, if it's something real simple, he'll probably solve it if it has to send a letter to somebody. But that's to me unacceptable for a congressman to be like that. And so I'll think of more things here, but right now, I'll turn it over to the next question.
All right.
Oh, I pass, sorry. I have no questions at this moment.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you for being here today. Mr. Murphy?
Yes, sir.
Are you running as a Republican, sir?
I'm running as an independent.
An independent. Mr.
I was a
Sakura?
Democrat. I was a Democrat and a Republican.
So you're an independent. Mr. Sakura, are you running as a Republican or a Democrat?
I was at a VA rally at Sun City Anthem. 500 people were there.
That's non-responsive, sir. Are you running as a Democrat or a Republican or an independent?
I believe that Democrats can also serve and die for their country.
Thank
I'm
you,
a
sir.
Democrat.
Mr. Jones, you're running as an independent?
Independent American Party.
And Mr. Holder, you're running as a Democrat?
Democrat.
Very good, thank you. What's the perimeter of your district? What is the perimeter of your district, Mr. Holder?
My district is south of Russell, and this is to the state lines. South of Russell, it curves around. It's west of Durango, and then it goes all the way up to the Summerlin Parkway, and then it's south of the Summerlin Parkway, and there's a little curve, I forget which street, that is a little bit
What
north of...
do you find to be the biggest problem in your district? Mr. Holder first.
In my district, I haven't focused on specific problems in my district. Somebody asked me why I never ran for state government, and I said, well, why don't you run for state assembly? And quite honestly, it's because I'm a Federalist, and I don't, if you know history, and as I've learned more about history in my political science courses, I am definitely a Federalist. I believe in the Union, and I'm concerned about national issues. So I'm sure there's plenty of national issues that affect the constituents in my district.
I believe the biggest problem is our economy, which means we have to help our businesses. And I think the government is too involved. They hinder people starting their business with their red tape and the costs and the time it takes to get a business started. and then they hinder businesses from expanding and growing with all the regulations. And all it does is promote, it kills small businesses, and it just helps large businesses. And I think we have to cut back on the government regulations and red tape.
There are two major problems for District 3, which is predominantly Henderson, and that is Sloan Canyon, which you can see from my home. It's going to create huge amount of microscopic dust for the seniors and so forth. And they could do it 50 miles away, but it'll cost 10 cents more a pound for their clinker. So this has already been wired by lobbyists. They've already done it in the Okefenokee Swamp, which is much more fragile than our environment. You think that we're going to be able to fight the lobbyists and not have Sloan Canyon operational in 2 years? The strategic problem with Henderson is that it's a beautiful, beautiful city. It's made tremendous commitments in parks and retirement plans for the city. The property tax are going to soar. That's why I am saying that for seniors, they need property tax like 10 other countries. And in Japan, in fact, by the time you're 80, your property tax is 0. That seems to make sense to me on an intergenerational basis. Sun City Anthem has 7,000 homes, not one school.
Got it on this time. I'd like to say that we're talking about serving in your country in Vietnam. My youngest boy just got back from Afghanistan, from Kandahar. He spent a year over there, and not very pleasant, by the way. And my older son is a retired lieutenant colonel fighter pilot in the Air Force, and he's retired now. He got hired by American Airlines, so he's pretty happy. I'd like to get back to the issue of politicians who get into office and do nothing. And I looked over Joe Heck's voting record, by the way, and I happen to be a pro-life individual. I don't know how anyone else is here, but I happen to be pro-life. And in his bio, it puts down he's a member of the Catholic War Veterans. Oh, so I looked up his record, and sure enough, he voted 1 or 2 times pro-choice. So I'd like the people to know that. You know, they say, oh, well, he only voted like one time, I think, and so that made him 85% pro-life. It's like being partially pregnant. And what I'd like to say is, I'll reserve it for the next time.
I pass. All right, we can probably get one more round of questioning in. You want to get the last question in, Mr. Webster?
Yes, I do. This question is about seeing if you're in touch. Now, Mr. Murphy, you said something about better being an officer. Why is that?
What's that?
Better being an officer.
What about it?
Why is that better? You said that.
I'm missing the question.
You had stated it's better to be an officer than an enlisted.
Sir, that's what you said in your opening statement, and I
You think
spent
it's better for
32
him?
years as an enlisted Marine, and I take offense to
Oh,
that.
boy. I was enlisted too, young man.
I understand that, but why is it better being an officer? That's why you're out of touch, I believe.
You were ever an officer?
No.
That's, keep turning it off. So you think that I'm against being enlisted?
That's what it appears.
I spent 6 years enlisted.
Okay,
6.
good.
Yes.
Good, so why is it better being an officer? That's what I want to ask.
Well, why? Because I went back to college, and people said, well, why don't you want to stay in the service? I said, I went through the officer training program, became a second lieutenant first, before I was in the Navy, and I spent 10 years in the military. Then I transferred my commission and got hired by the airlines, by TWA. And then I ended up getting an offer by the Navy, because during the Vietnam War, believe it or not, they couldn't get pilots. They just couldn't get them. So they took me from the Army and let me transfer my commission from captain to Navy lieutenant. That's why I stayed in it. And you say, why is it better? I'm not saying it's any better. I was able to serve my country better. That's why.
So enlisted as a career member? No. Lesser. Is that what you're saying?
I don't,
That's the feeling I got, and I apologize if that's out of the realm of things, but that's the appearance.
No.
that's how I came across it. I think it's better to be an officer.
Very.
Well, it's certainly not.
Thank you.
I have children that are awesome.
Okay, well, I think we can leave it as, maybe there was a misunderstanding, but let's maybe go on to the next.
I was an officer in the Navy and I was never fragged. Because I understood my men.
That's right.
I was never fragged. In Vietnam, that was a very common event, of course, when the highfalutin officer would do something, they'd roll a hand grenade into his tank. Read it in The Things That They Carry, the incredible book about life in Vietnam, where you're in the jungle with leeches, and then at night they climb up to the LZ and they have ice cream in the New York Times. That's the kind of conflict that we put our kids in. And we've got to stop this, sending them back 3 or 4 times so that the lobbyists can control both sides of the fence.
Okay, time.
All right, let's move on to, in fairness, I think Mr. Jones and Mr. Holder should have some remaining words. I think your question was actually directed just to Mr. Murphy, but why don't we finish off, unless you have a specific follow-up, let's give Mr. Jones and Mr. Holder each a minute.
Well, I just want to say that I think that, our founding fathers fought and risked their lives to give us liberty, freedom, and independence. And our veterans fought, risked their lives to protect that, so that we would have the freedom and independence that we have today. And I think it's a shame that our general public won't take a few hours to go out and vote and to learn about the candidates and to do what it takes to elect people to office that will protect our freedom, liberties, and independence.
I'd like to set the record straight, because it's very important. I did not retire as a lieutenant commander. I made lieutenant commander while I was in the active reserves. I worked at Allstate, I was in the active reserves, got promoted to lieutenant commander, and then went back on active duty for 3 years. Three-year recall to active duty, and that's when I served on the Stennis, and I also served in Washington, D.C. at the Navy International Programs Office. 22 years as an enlisted man in the Marine Corps. 32. 32. God bless you, sir. And the Marines are the finest, our nation's finest. That's how I feel about that. And on the base, I would tell my Navy guys, you know what, I like it. You're pretty good at operating that computer panel. That Marine guy is squared away. We're on the aircraft carrier. This is the truth. And when we're on the aircraft carrier and then we joke around and we cart them around, I'll say absolutely. They can relax and work out and do what they got to do, because when it's time to drop them off, they're going to do a job for our country. That's how I feel about that. And the thing about officer enlisted, I would tell my troops, some of the junior ones sometimes would say to me, I'm just a this or just a that. I said, don't ever say that, young man. Your job is important as anybody else's, no matter what level you're at. So that's how I feel about that. And just on behalf of the Democrat Party, I don't know if everybody in this room knows, but the county Democratic Party convention is being held at the Riviera Hotel right now as we speak. The reason I'm here is I'll explain later. It'll be explained in the Guardian magazine. But everything happens for a reason, and I'm happy that I had the opportunity to be here.
We're out of time, but let's thank these fine candidates. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Well.